Good morning, children. Let us conclude the chapter Constitutional Design today. Today, I am starting with a new heading, that is Philosophy of the Constitution. Values that inspired and guided the freedom struggle and were in turn nurtured by it form the foundation of India's democracy. I am reading again. Values that inspired and guided the freedom struggle and were in turn nurtured by it form the foundation of India's democracy. These values are embedded in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. That means the values which were there in the minds of those people who took part in the freedom struggle to free India from the bondage of slavery. These values, these ideals are found in the preamble of the Indian Constitution. They guide all the articles of the Indian Constitution. They means the values. The Constitution begins with a short statement of its basic values. This is called the preamble to the Constitution. This, children, you must learn. Okay, what is the meaning of preamble to the Constitution? Learn this by heart. I am reading these 3-4 lines again. The Constitution begins with a short statement of its basic values. This is called the preamble to the Constitution. That means if a person reads the preamble to the Constitution, he will come to know what basic values does the Constitution contain. Taking inspiration from American model, most countries in the contemporary world have chosen to begin their constitutions with a preamble. Like we have preface before the actual lesson 1 begins. Similarly, there is preamble before the actual article in the Constitution begins, and when we read the preamble, we will come to know what basic values does the Constitution contain. Now, I am reading some of the important basic values which are there in our Constitution. The preamble says, we, the people of India. I am first of all reading what is there in the preamble, then I will explain each term line by line. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. Now, let us see what each important word here means. We, the people of India. It means the Constitution has been drawn up and enacted by the people through their representatives. What is the meaning of drawn up and enacted? That means we, the people of India, we, the citizens of India, have made our Constitution. Who has made? Actually, the representatives have made. Remember, the representatives in the Constituent Assembly, they have made the Constitution, and who has appointed these representatives? The people of India. The representatives, if you remember, we have studied in the previous class that these representatives have been chosen from different regions all over the country. So the citizens of the country find their representation in the form of these representatives of the Constituent Assembly who have drawn up and enacted, who have made the Constitution of India and has brought it into effect. The Constitution has been drawn up and enacted by the people through their representatives and not handed down to them by a king or any outside powers. This Constitution has been made by the representatives chosen by the people, and it is not made, the Constitution has not been made by any king or by any outside authority. This is the first thing, starting line, which the line which I have read just now, we the people of India. We the people of India states that the Constitution has been made by the representatives who have been chosen by the people of India and they represent the people of India. The Constitution has not been made by any king or by any outside power. Next, I am reading sovereign. What does the word sovereign mean? Because in our preamble it is written, we the people of India having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. What does the word sovereign mean? Let us see. Sovereign means people have supreme right to make decisions on internal as well as external matters. No external power can dictate the government of India. Very, very important term, children. And one more advice here to all the students. Please learn these terms with their meanings. They can be asked as individual questions in the exams. Like for example, you can get a 2-mark question. What does the word sovereign mean? So if you don't know exactly, you will not be able to answer. So everything is given very, very clearly in your books. Please learn them if you have the books, or if you have downloaded the NCERT app by now, the textbook app, learn from there. I am reading sovereign again. People have supreme right to make decisions on internal as well as external matters. No external power can dictate the government of India. Till now, we were being dictated by the British. But once India became free, once India became a sovereign democratic republic, the people of India were given the whole sole right to decide their internal and external matters. They will not now be guided by any external power. Next term is socialist. What does the word socialist mean? Wealth is generated socially and should be shared equally by society. Wealth is generated socially. That means all people in the society, whether high or low, whether rich or poor, all are equally responsible to contribute to the economy of the country, to contribute to the finances or wealth of the country. Every person in his or her own way does his or her role to contribute to the country's wealth, and the wealth should be equally shared in the society. It should not be that only a limited section of the society, the rich sections of the society, should gather more and more wealth and become richer and richer, whereas the deprived become poorer and poorer. This should not be the policy in a socialist country like India. I am reading once again. Wealth is generated socially and should be shared equally by society. Government should regulate the ownership of land and industry to reduce socio-economic inequality. That means earlier, like in India, we had zamindari system, we had landowners, large tracts of land, pieces of land were owned by such wealthy landowners, and they used to exploit the people under them. working under them. So such type of a system should be done away with. The government should regulate the ownership of land. That means the control of the ownership of land should be given to the government, not to individual people. And the industry, because industry is a place where so many people, thousands of people get employment. Lots of goods and commodities are manufactured here. So the government should see to it that ownership of land and industry should be in the hands of the government. It should be under the control of the government, so that social and economic inequalities are reduced as far as possible. Social and economic inequalities, so that the disparity or the gap between the high and the low and the rich and the poor should be minimized. Social equality, economic equality will bring the people of the country together. They will consider each and every individual as equal. So this is the task which the government has to undertake. And to a very large extent, the country has been a success. Next, secular. Maybe you know the meaning of secular, because this is a very common term which we use in civics. Secular means citizens have complete freedom to follow any religion. Very important. Citizens have complete freedom to follow any religion. No individual should be forced or can be forced to follow a specific religion. If a person does not want to follow any religion, he is also free to do so. If I am a Hindu but I want to follow Muslim religion, or I want to follow Christianity, I am free to do so in a secular country. So every individual has been given the freedom to follow his or her religion of his or her choice. But there is no official religion. This is something very important in a country like India. Although India is such a vast country, but we have no official religion. Government treats all religious beliefs and practices with equal respect. All religions are given equal importance. All people are given freedom to follow religion of their choice. Next, democratic. With the word democratic, the first word which clicks in our mind is democracy. What is democracy? The democracy is a form of government of the people, for the people, by the people. Let us see what is democratic. A form of government where people enjoy equal political rights, elect their rulers and hold them accountable. Very, very important description of democratic, children. Please learn everything. Democratic is a form of government where people enjoy equal political rights. Now here, if I ask you, which is the most important political right of every citizen of India? The answer is right to vote. Right to vote is the most important political right. You must have heard of the word universal adult franchise. What does this mean? Every individual who is 18 years of age or above has the right to vote, whether he is a man or a woman. Irrespective of being a female or a male, if a person is 18 years of age or above, he has the right to vote. So this is the most important political right which every Indian citizen has, every citizen of a democratic country like India has. A form of government where people enjoy equal political rights, elect their rulers. How do we elect our rulers? By giving vote, by casting our vote in elections. Elect their rulers and hold them accountable. That means when we have chosen our rulers, we make them responsible, we hold them responsible for whatever they do. If the government is not functioning as per the interests of the people, Then the people can also take actions against the government. That in detail you will study in class 10, how the people can take actions and what kind of actions they can take, and the government will have to resign, the whole ministry will have to resign, and again fresh elections will take place. So whatever the people do, whatever people here means the elected representatives who form the government, whatever the elected representatives do, whatever these people are doing, they are answerable to the citizens. The citizens of the country have elected them, they have given their precious vote, then they have formed the government. These elected representatives have formed the government. So these people, the elected representatives of the country, are accountable to the people. They are answerable to the people. A form of government where people enjoy equal political rights, elect their rulers, and hold them accountable. The government is run according to some basic rules. Next term, republic. Again, a very important term, very important. What is a republic? The head of the state is an elected person. Republic is that form of government where the head of the state, here the word state, children, does not mean Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh. State here means country. The head of the state, that means the head of the country, is an elected person. Who has elected? We, the people of India, have elected them. And not a hereditary position. His chair, his post is not hereditary. The post of the Prime Minister is not hereditary. It is not that if A is the Prime Minister, when A will die, then B, who is the son of A, will become the next Prime Minister of India. No. Always fresh elections are held after every 5 years, and the people of India, the citizens of India, cast their vote and elect their representatives. So, what is the meaning of republic? Republic is that form of government where the head of the state is an elected person and not a hereditary position. Next, justice. Citizens cannot be discriminated on grounds of caste, religion, or gender. Social inequalities have to be reduced. Government should work for the welfare of all, especially of the disadvantaged groups. That means justice should be imparted to one and all, irrespective of caste, religion, or gender. People should be given equal justice, and especially those sections of people who are disadvantaged sections of people of the society, or you can say those sections of the society who have never been given any weightage, who have never been given any importance. Equal justice should be imparted, especially to those groups of people in the country. Next, liberty. There are no unreasonable restrictions on the citizens in what they think, how they wish to express their thoughts, and the way they wish to follow up their thoughts in action. I am reading again. Liberty. First of all, liberty means what? Liberty means freedom. The word liberty is related to freedom. There are no unreasonable restrictions on the citizens in what they think. That means there is freedom of thinking. How they wish to express their thoughts, they are free to express their thoughts the way they like, and the way they wish to follow up their thoughts in action. How they want to bring their thoughts into action. Every individual in the country is free. There is liberty of thought, liberty of expression, liberty of action. We are free to think however the way we like. We are free to bring those thoughts into action the way we like, because we are living in a socially we are living in a socialist, secular, democratic country where liberty has been given as our right. Equality. All are equal before the law. Very important. equality. Everybody is equal before the law. That means even if a person is high or low, rich or poor, he belongs to any section of the society, everybody will be treated as equal before law. The traditional social inequalities have to be ended. Social inequalities, you must have heard in your class 6th or 7th that the society was divided into 4 categories: Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, Brahmins, Vaishyas and Shudras. Kshatriyas were considered the highest class in the society, and the Shudras were considered the downtrodden, the lowest classes of people in the society. So such type of inequalities in the society should be ended. The government should ensure equal opportunity for all. Equality before the law and equal opportunity to all. It is not that only some privileged sections of the society should be given the opportunity to get admission in good schools and colleges and universities, or get good jobs once they finish their education. No. Every little opportunity, every big or small opportunity should be given to every individual in the country, because the right to equality has been given to everybody equally in the country, irrespective of his social status, irrespective of his religion, caste, creed, etc. Fraternity. All of us should behave as if we are members of the same family. We should live like we are brothers and sisters, members of the same family. No one should treat a fellow citizen as inferior. Here also the concept of equality comes in. We should treat everybody as our family members, like our brothers and sisters. We should have the feeling of fraternity in our hearts, and nobody should be treated as inferior person. Institutional design. A constitution is not merely a statement of values and philosophy. As we noted above, a constitution is mainly about embodying these values into institutional arrangements. That means it is not that the constitution should only follow these values on paper, but these values should be actually brought into practice in the country. Much of the document called the Constitution of India is about these arrangements. It is a very long and detailed document. Therefore, it needs to be amended quite regularly to keep it updated. Amended means changes should be made, changes need to be made in our constitution, so that the constitution justifies the needs of the society, the needs of the changing society. Because what India was when India became free from the British rule, and what India is now, there is a drastic change. There is a drastic change in the needs of the people, the values of the people, the needs in the society. So how can the constitution fulfill the needs of the people? By updating itself, by bringing about necessary changes in itself, which are called as amendments. Therefore, it needs to be amended quite regularly to keep it updated. Those who crafted the Indian Constitution felt that it has to be in accordance with people's aspirations and changes in society. As I just said, that every now and then, after every few years, the society needs some changes. The society makes changes for the betterment of the country, for the betterment of the people. So in order to keep itself updated with these changes, there should be some changes, some amendments in the constitution also. They did not see it as a sacred, static and unalterable law. Those who made the constitution, the makers of the constitution, did not see the constitution as that sacred body which should remain static. That means where there should be no change, where there should be no improvement. They wanted such a body which should keep on changing, which should keep on improving with the changing needs of the people in the society. So they made provisions to incorporate changes from time to time. These changes are called constitutional amendments. The Constitution describes the institutional arrangements in a very legal language. The Constitution describes the institutional arrangements in a very legal language. If you read the Constitution for the first time, it can be quite difficult to understand. Yet, the basic institutional design is not very difficult to understand. Like any constitution, the Indian Constitution lays down a procedure for choosing persons to govern the country. It defines who will have how much power to take which decisions. So all these important things have been laid down in the Constitution. How the people will be elected in the country, which group of people in the country, those who have been elected, among those people who or which body of persons will be given more power, which power, how much power, so that they don't misuse their power also. All these things have been laid down in detail in the Constitution. I am reading this part again. Like any constitution, the Indian Constitution lays down a procedure for choosing persons to govern the country. It defines who will have how much power to take which decisions. And it puts limits to what the government can do by providing some rights to the citizens that cannot be violated. In order to see that the government of the country, the people, the elected representatives of the country are doing their work well and they are not misusing their power. What has the Constitution done? The Constitution has given some rights to the citizens of the country also, and these rights cannot be violated, they cannot be taken away by any government in the country. The remaining 3 chapters in this book are about these 3 aspects of the working of Indian Constitution. We shall look at some key constitutional provisions in each chapter and understand how they work in democratic politics. So the upcoming chapters are going to be very interesting because you will see, you will read what kind of provisions have been given in our Indian Constitution and how the people have the command in their hands, how the people have the power in their hands, so that they can ensure that the representatives of the country work for the welfare of the country, for the welfare of the citizens, and don't misuse their authority. We shall look at some key constitutional provisions in each chapter and understand how they work in democratic politics. But this textbook will not cover all the salient features of the institutional design in the Indian Constitution. Some other aspects will be covered in your textbook next year. As I told you, next year also in class 10 you will study some more aspects in detail about the Indian Constitution and the provisions in the Constitution. So these are some of the important things which we have read in this lesson, children. As I have told you, please learn every important term which I have described today. There are also some important terms which are described in the form of word meanings, you can say. After the chapter is over, the heading is glossary. Read these terms and try to remember them, because they can also be asked in the form of definition in 1 mark question category in your question paper. Okay, so revise everything again. Keep reading the chapters. Do not ignore reading. Please remember, children, now you are in class 9th. Almost you must consider yourself in a board class now. So learning only from the copy or learning only some limited question and answers will not help you. The chapter should be read by you very frequently. You have lot of time nowadays. You can easily read the chapter once a week. keep on revising, read the important terms again and again every week, and you will start remembering important things in the lesson. Okay, every line should be read carefully, don't ignore anything, and try to learn. Keep learning, so that later on when your exams will be held, you will find yourself in a very comfortable position because you have learned most of the things. Okay, so keep reading, keep revising, keep learning. Next I will send the picture of some of the question and answers. Keep writing them in your notebooks, learn them also, and we will soon meet in our next class. Have a nice day.